it looks like it's 6:30. I think we might have enough people here, so I will go ahead and call the meeting to order at 6:30. Would the clerk call the roll, please? Is the clerk here?
Yep, I'm muted, sorry.
Okay, that's okay.
Humphrey.
Here.
King.
Here.
Lakshin.
Here.
McGuire. Michaels.
Here.
Pasqua. Paul. Rob.
Here.
Rodriguez.
Here.
Storr.
Present.
Schraub.
Here.
Summers.
Here.
Taylor.
Here.
Thorsland.
Here.
Wolkin.
Here.
Hammonds.
Here.
Cowart. Esri.
Here.
Furtado.
Here.
Goss.
Here.
Harper.
Here.
Patterson.
Here.
You're muted, Darlene.
Well, I'll start over. Thank you. So due to the pandemic, we are holding this meeting remotely. Just as a reminder, all votes will be taken by roll call, and that if you wish to speak and be recognized by the chair, please raise your little blue hand icon. The county executive and 2 board members are here in the county board room. That would be Ms. Michaels and Mr. Esri. And now I will say the prayer for tonight. Lord, help me be grateful for what I have. Remember that I don't need most of what I want, and that joy is found in simplicity and generosity. Amen. And now we will say the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, would the clerk read the notice of the meeting, please?
Notice is hereby given that a regular meeting of the County Board, Champaign County, Illinois will convene on March 18th, 2020, 6:30 p.m. via Zoom in the Brookins Administrative Center, 1776 East Washington Street, Urbana, Illinois, in said county for the purpose of allowing and ordering payments of claims against the county, receiving and acting upon reports of committees and such other matters as may be brought before said meeting, which said meeting shall continue in session from day to day until the completion of said business.
Okay, thank you. Next, we have approval of the agenda, and you should have gotten an addendum that would be also adding a couple of items to the bottom of our new business. Can I get a motion to approve the agenda with the addendum? Mr. Esri?
Move to approve the agenda and addenda as presented.
Okay, Ms. King?
I second.
Thank you. All right, those in favor signify by saying aye. We'll need roll call. So clerk, would you call the roll, please?
Three.
Yes.
King.
Yes.
Lakshin.
Yes.
McGuire.
Yes.
Michaels.
Yes.
Passalacqua.
He's not going
Paul.
to be tonight.
Yes.
Rob,
Yes.
Rodriguez,
Yes.
Storr,
Yes.
Straub,
Yes.
Summers,
Yes.
Taylor,
Yes.
Dorsland,
Yes.
Wolcott,
Yes.
Ammons,
Yes.
Cowork, Esri,
Yes.
Furtado,
Yes.
Goss,
Yes.
Harper,
Yes.
Patterson.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. We have an agenda. Next, we have the date and time of our regular meetings coming up, and I just would like to make a couple of notes this evening. The Facilities Committee meeting will be on Wednesday rather than Tuesday at its usual time because the municipal elections will be held on Tuesday. And if you go further down, the full county board, we have not been having any study sessions, but this month coming up, we will be having a study session on April the 27th. Okay, next is public participation. And if there are any members of the public that wish to speak, if you could raise your hands, I will call on you. Each of you would have 5 minutes to speak. And I see a hand raised. Mr. Tess, can you unmute yourself?
Good evening. Can you hear me?
Yep, we can. Hi, Scott.
Hi, my name is Scott Tuss. I'm the Sustainability and Resilience Officer for the City of Urbana, and I just wanted to speak in favor of establishing a PACE program at the county. I think this will be a nice opportunity in additional finance opportunity for commercial property owners, and will get more energy efficiency and renewable energy projects done. Thanks.
Thank you. Are there any other members of the public that wish to speak this evening? Okay, seeing none, I will close public participation.
Darlene.
I'm sorry, Delitzo, you're in the other column. Delitzo, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good evening. Good evening, County Board members. My name is Delitzo Solomoyo. I'm the Chief Executive Officer of the Champaign County Regional Planning Commission. I've been the CEO of the RPC for now close to 4 years. And prior to that, I was the President and CEO of the Illinois Community Action Association for almost 17 years. I have worked with state and federal grants for over 20 years. The audit issues affecting the county, especially the RPC as it relates to grant compliance and accountability, are issues we have raised previously due to the delinquency of the 2017 and 2018 audits. I'm here tonight to make a statement on behalf of the RPC and on the serious impact the delinquency of the Champaign County 2019 audit will have in both short and long term for the Regional Planning Commission. While the RPC has not had any single audit concerns related directly to our organization in over 35 years, the fact that we share the same federal employer identification number with the county certainly has resulted in this delinquency impacting the RPC as well. As a department of Champaign County, we certainly cannot afford to have current critical services and projects interrupted at this time, nor do we want to jeopardize any future funding, inclusive of the recently passed stimulus package, because of an audit delinquency which is beyond the control of the RPC. As many of you know, we have been successful in bringing in millions in funding to this community pre-COVID and during the COVID pandemic, and we have served thousands of individuals who are some of our most vulnerable residents. We have also helped many businesses and worked with several of our municipalities on transportation and infrastructure projects. We have been diligent in adhering to numerous state and federal regulations as we serve thousands of individuals, not only in Champaign County, but in over 15 counties of this great state. The fact that we have strictly followed state and federal regulations with no findings attributed to our organization is the reason why we have been successful over the years in growing our budget as needs of our community have grown. What we all want is to continue this great work, especially now when our community at large needs our services today more than before. We are indeed concerned that our reputation with our funders may have been tarnished to some extent because of this predicament we find ourselves in. But on behalf of the RPC, I'd like to extend my appreciation to the county board, the county executive, for the consideration which is on the agenda tonight to provide the mechanism for a cash flow stopgap measure to the RPC while the audit is getting completed. If approved, a loan from the county will allow our agency to continue to provide uninterrupted services and maintain our staffing levels during this very challenging time of our history. The approval of the mechanism to loan cash to the RPC by the county board is critical because it has been reported that there are loopholes within state guidelines that will allow us to be able to draw down funds from our grants that meet the criterion of public health and safety. But I'll tell you that our communications with our funding sources today indicate that only a few of our grants would be considered under that criterion for exemption from the stop payment status. Cash flow is critical to our ongoing operations as an organization. However, I'd like to emphasize the fact that immediate cash flow needs of the RPC, while extremely critical, are not the only impact we would experience in the near short term. We are concerned that $18 million in grant applications and modifications will not be processed by the state of Illinois while we remain on the stop payment status. This means that if this audit is delayed beyond the beginning of the state's fiscal year, we may not have many of these programs to operate in the next 3 months. This could potentially create a significant gap in services for our community. While the county board tonight considers the cash flow needs of the RPC, I'd like for you to also note that the $18 million in grant applications, we will not be able to submit those because, again, the $18 million does not include any of the new stimulus funding that we are expecting from the federal government. We are recommending that the county either pay more to the external auditor for additional personnel to complete this audit as soon as possible, or contract with an additional firm like Clifton and Larson, I believe, that used to do the audit for the county, to assist in its completion as soon as possible. We're also concerned that we may be dealing with these very same issues in these next few months with the FY 2020 audit. Finally, a review of the RPC structure by both RPC commissioners and the county board is imperative to mitigate or insulate a department of the county that relies almost 90% on state and federal grants to operate and provide services to the community. I want to thank you again all for your continued support of the Regional Planning Commission. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay, thank you. I don't see any more public participation now. So I'm going to close public participation. If you're on the public, we also are live streaming on YouTube if you'd like to watch the rest of the meeting that way. Next, we have the consent agenda. Can the executive get a motion to approve the consent agenda? Mr. Esri?
I move to approve the consent agenda as is, shown.
Okay, can I get a second?
I'll second McGuire.
Mr. McGuire? Okay, thank you. Would the clerk call the roll, please?
Humphrey,
Yes.
King,
Yes.
Lokshin,
Yes.
McGuire,
Yes.
Michaels,
Yes.
Hasalakwa, Paul,
Yes.
Rob,
Yes.
Rodriguez,
Yes.
Storr,
Yes.
Straub,
Yes.
Summers,
Yes.
Taylor,
Yes.
Thorsland,
Yes.
Kin,
Yes.
Ammons,
Yes.
Cowart, Esri, Esri,
Yes, sorry.
Furtado.
Yes.
Goff,
Yes.
Harper,
Yes.
Patterson,
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Next, we have communications. Does any member of the board have any communication regarding business of the board to announce? I see, let's see, Mr. Humphrey.
Yeah, I just wanted to take a moment to acknowledge and say a few words in response to some recent events that have happened in Atlanta. As most of you are probably aware, there was a incident where a white supremacist went and killed 8 people, 6 of whom were Asian women. And I think it's important to reflect about what this means to this community in particular. I grew up in this town. It's a very diverse town. We have a great population of Asian Americans and international students. And I can't count the number of times I've heard some barfly ranting about how the Chinese were taking over the town or they were taking over the college. I can't count how many times I've heard peers and people growing up remark about how the restaurants or the teachers were to this or to that. And I know for a fact that some of the members on this board are very fond of calling COVID-19 the Wuhan virus and very fond of referring to President Biden as China Joe. If I sound angry, it's because I am. I have a Japanese American niece, and I'm very ashamed to say that she's almost guaranteed to be treated differently in this community when she gets older. And you want to play around and make racist comments on Facebook and think up catchy nicknames for your political enemies, but you need to know that people suffer and can sometimes die because you can't handle your politics without racism. You need to know that your hatred has consequences, and usually the victims are women and children. So please don't go about writing another post about being a family man or an outstanding member of this community if you can't handle being a basic, decent human being. Thank you.
Ms. Furtado.
Yeah, I just want to, the week, what happened in Atlanta has been heavy on my heart. I work in a school at the U of I that has a lot of international students and a lot of international faculty that come from Asia. And I don't really have the words for it. So I just want to read into the record a statement of solidarity from the Multicultural Student Association that was sent out to my department today. It just says, it is deeply saddening and enraging to witness the events that took place this past Tuesday in Atlanta and its horrific impact on the Asian American community. MSA sends our deepest condolences to the families of the 8 victims, 6 of Asian descent. We stand in solidarity with the Asian American community in continuing to fight against racism and xenophobia.
Okay, does anyone else have anything? Mr. McGuire.
I see Delizzo and Betty Murphy is still on. They will be on when we get to the point where we're going to talk about the loans, right?
Yes, they will. Okay. Moving on to approval of minutes. May the executive get a motion to approve the minutes of February 9th, 2021. Mr. Thorsland,
So moved.
Mr. Storr,
Is those February 9th or February 18th?
let's see here.
I know that says 9th in the agenda, but
I think
That-
it would be it would be the full board meeting, so it would be the 18th, I believe. Thank you. Yeah, it would
thank you,
be
Chris.
the 18th. Thanks for noticing that. Thank you.
I accept the friendly amendment.
Okay, thanks. Any further discussion on the minutes with that correction? Mr. Patterson?
Did anybody second the motion?
Yes, Mr. Storr did.
Okay, just clarifying.
Okay, would the clerk call the roll, please?
I just want to note that the minutes themselves say February 18th, not February 9th.
Oh, good. Yeah, they should. Thank you. It's just that we printed it in the agenda wrong. Okay.
Humphrey,
Yes.
King,
Yes.
Lokshin,
Yes.
McGuire,
Yes.
Michaels,
Yes.
Passalacqua, Paul,
Yes.
Rob,
Yes.
Rodriguez,
Yes.
Storr,
Yes.
Straub,
Yes.
Summers,
Yes.
Taylor,
Yes.
Thorsland,
Yes.
Vulcan,
Yes.
Ammons,
Yes.
Cowart,
Not
Esri,
Yes.
Furtado,
yes,
Goss,
Yes.
Harper,
Yes.
Patterson.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Motion carries. Next, we have item 11, standing committees. The county executive will put the summaries of action taken at the county facilities meeting on March the 2nd, 2021. The summary of action taken at the Environment and Land Use Committee on March the 4th, 2021. And the summary of action taken at the Highway and Transportation Committee on March the 5th, 2021, received and placed on file. Moving next to areas of responsibility, the county executive will place the summary of action taken on March 9th at the Committee of the Whole meeting, receiving and placed on file. And next we move to item A, which is policy, personnel, and appointments recommendation. Mr. Storr, would you like to make the recommendation on item number 1?
Be glad to. A move adoption of resolution number 2021-110, appointing Ms. Linda Turnbull as the resident commissioner of the Housing Authority of Champaign County.
Ms. King, would you like to second?
Yes. Second.
Okay, thank you. Any discussion on this item? Seeing none, would the clerk call the roll, please?
Humphrey,
Yes.
King,
Yes.
Lokshin,
Yes.
McGuire,
No.
Michaels,
Yes.
Passalacqua, Paul,
Yes.
Rob,
Yes.
Rodriguez,
Yes.
Storr,
Yes.
Straub,
Yes.
Summers,
Yes.
Taylor,
Yes.
Thorsland,
Yes.
Vulcan,
Yes.
Ammons,
Yes.
Cowart, Esri,
No.
Furtado,
yes,
Goss,
No.
Harper,
Yes.
Patterson.
Yes.
That motion carries. Would the policy chair like to make the committee's recommendation for item number 2?
I'd be pleased to. And move adoption of resolution number 2021-112 to establish place of election for Sydney and East Bend.
Can I get a second? Ms. Straub?
Yes. Second.
Thank you. Any discussion on this item? Mr. Harper?
Yes, were the people of East Bend, did they get an adequate answer to their question of why it was moved, especially with the school board votes that are coming up?
I believe Mr. Ammons is here to possibly answer that question.
Yes.
Okay, any further questions? Seeing
Didn't
none,
get an answer on anything, Darlene.
I'm sorry, I think he just said yes. Do you want to say anything else or ask something else?
No, thank you.
Okay. Will the clerk call the roll, please?
Humphrey,
Yes.
King,
Yes.
Lockshin,
Yes.
McGuire,
No.
Michaels,
Yes.
Passalaqua, Paul,
No.
Rob,
Yes.
Rodriguez,
Yes.
Storr,
Yes.
Straub,
Yes.
Summers,
Yes.
Taylor,
Yes.
Thorsland,
Yes.
Wolkin,
Yes.
Ammons,
Yes.
Cowart, Esri,
No.
Furtado,
Yes.
Goss,
No.
Harper,
No.
Patterson.
Yes.
That motion carries. We're moving on now to item B, Finance. Recommendations coming from the Finance Committee. Ms. Furtado, would you like to make the recommendation number 1?
Sure. Adoption of resolution number 2021113 for giving loans from the Champaign County General Corporate Fund to the Nursing Home Fund, authorized by resolutions number 2018-411 and 2019-55.
Okay, can I get a second, please?
Second, Thorsland.
Okay, well, that'd be Eric. Mr. Storr's raising his hand. Eric, raise your hand next time. Okay, any discussion on that item? Seeing none, would the clerk call the roll, please?
Humphrey,
Yes.
King,
Yes.
Lockshin,
Yes.
McGuire,
No.
Michaels,
Yes.
Passalaqua, Paul,
No.
Rob,
Yes.
Rodriguez,
Yes.
Storr,
Yes.
Straub, Straub,
You're muted.
Yes.
Summers,
Yes.
Yes.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we got it. Thank you.
Summers, Taylor,
Yes.
Thorsland,
Yes.
Wolkin,
Yes.
Ammons,
Yes.
Cowart, Esri,
No.
Furtado,
Yes.
Goss,
No.
Harper,
No.
Patterson.
Yes.
That motion carries. Would the finance chair like to make the committee's recommendation regarding item number 2?
Yes. Adoption of resolution number 2021-90, amending the schedule of authorized positions for the Champaign County Treasurer Department, Chief Deputy Treasurer.
Okay, can I get a second for that, please? Ms. Lotion?
I'll second.
Thank you. Discussion on this item? Okay, seeing none, would the clerk call the roll, please?
Humphrey,
Yes.
King,
Yes.
Lockshin,
Yes.
McGuire,
No.
Michaels,
Yes.
Passalaqua, Paul,
No.
Rob,
Yes.
Rodriguez,
Yes.
Storr,
Yes.
Straub,
Yes.
Summers,
Yes.
Taylor,
Yes.
Thorsland,
Yes.
Wolken,
Yes.
Ammons,
Yes.
Cowart, Esri,
No.
Furtado,
Yes.
Goss,
No.
Harper,
No.
Patterson,
Yes.
Motion carries. Would the finance chair like to make the committee's recommendation regarding item number 3?
Yes, adoption of resolution number 2021-114, approving budget amendment 21-0013, Fund 080, General Corporate Department 026, County Treasurer, increase appropriations $6,189, increase revenue $0. Reason, increase salary line to reflect job evaluation committee decision to increase Chief Deputy Treasurer salary grade from I to K.
Can I get a second, please? Mr. Thorsland.
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion on this item? Ms. Furtado.
Yeah, I just want to say the following statement. I've tried very hard to be bipartisan, and that's all I'm saying.
Anything else? Seeing no further discussion, would the clerk call the roll, please?
Humphrey,
Yes.
King,
Yes.
Lakshin,
Yes.
McGuire,
Yes.
Michaels,
Yes.
Passalaqua, Paul,
Yes.
Rob,
Yes.
Rodriguez,
Yes.
Storr,
Yes.
Straub,
Yes.
Summers,
Yes.
Taylor,
Yes.
Thorsland,
Yes.
Wolken,
Yes.
Ammons,
Yes.
Cowart,
Yes.
Esri,
No.
Furtado,
Yes.
Goss,
No.
Harper,
No.
Patterson.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. That motion carries. Now we move to old business. There's a couple of items here. One is, let's see, can I get a motion for item A to adopt resolution number 2021-94, approving the contract with Gallagher Benefit Services Incorporated for employee health insurance and related benefits broker consultant services. Can I get a motion? Mr. Humphrey.
So moved.
Thank you. Can I get a second? Ms. Furtado.
Yep.
Thank you. Discussion on this item? Ms. Furtado?
I would just like to hear from County Board members Michaels and Summers were the two people that asked for more information, and I just would like to hear from each of them if they were satisfied with the information that was provided.
Okay, do either of you want to speak to that? Mr. Summers?
Sure, I'd be happy to. The information that was provided gave us background on what entities had proposed in terms of bidding for this work. I am happy with the work that Gallagher has done in the past. And with the deadline coming up, I have no problem voting in favor of this.
Ms. Michaels, did you want to say anything in addition?
Sure. Well, I can concur with Mr. Summers. We've done a little bit more research on this, and many of our questions were answered by Ms. Heiser, and we appreciate that. So that helped out quite a little bit since we were just a little behind the curve on it. So I will be voting to pass this also.
Okay, any other discussion? Would the clerk call the roll, please? please.
Humphrey,
Yes.
King,
Yes.
Lakshin,
Yes.
McGuire,
Yes.
Michaels,
Yes.
Passalaqua, Paul,
Yes.
Rob,
Yes.
Rodriguez,
Yes.
Dorr,
Yes.
Straub,
Yes.
Summers.
Yes, and I'd like to let the record reflect that Member Court has joined us, although she's listed under my name on screen.
Taylor,
Yes.
Thorsland,
Yes.
Vulcan,
Yes.
Ammons,
Yes.
Cowart,
Yes.
Esri.
Mr. Esri?
Up there, went off the yes, sorry, wasn't letting me unmute.
Hurtado,
Yes.
Goss,
Yes.
Harper,
Yes.
Patterson.
Yes.
Okay, motion carries. Thank you. Next is, can the executive get a motion for item B to adopt the ordinance number 2021-3, establishing a property assessed clean energy PACE area and establishing a PACE program? Mr. Goss,
I move to approve the resolution.
thank you. Can I get a second? Mr. Esri? Mr. Esri, are you
Second.
seconding? Thank you. Any discussion on this item? Mr. Thorsland?
Yeah, most of these questions would be for you, executive, and these are mostly yes or no's. This is an interesting program. I just had some questions about its implementation. First of all, I know we talked about this some time ago, I think pre-pandemic. Are there any current interested developers in this program that have reached out to the county?
Yes, I've had 3 that are interested in 4 different projects in Champaign, Urbana, and Rantoul.
Okay, very good. We're looking at hiring someone, I believe, to administer this. Is there a possibility, and I hope there is, that we can administer this ourselves and save that admin salary, perhaps for other better things? Have you thought about that?
We have thought about it. At this point in time, it's a fairly specialized program, would not require a full-time person. It wouldn't even require probably maybe a quarter-time person for us with just 4 projects. There are companies, basically finance companies, that do this sort of thing. The idea would be to issue an RFQ for one of those companies to manage this. They have all of the paperwork and they know the program rules. That seems to be the way other counties are going as well. There are, I know, at least 6 other counties that have the program now established in the last few months, and 6 more that are in progress. And they're all going with RFQ model, I think.
Okay, a couple other things. Will the board be part of that decision in picking a company? Will that come before us?
No, it won't need to. Basically, once the board approves that you're doing the program, it becomes an administrative function to make sure it happens the way the law outlines.
Okay. When the actual projects come along, there's some financial components and there's some environmental components. This really seems like a program that's right up ELOC's alley as far as reviewing the projects. And we do have a finance committee, and there's some financials involved. Will those things go before those 2 subcommittees and then before the board as projects are financed and approved?
The same process would occur for approval of projects if they were in the unincorporated parts of the county. The county would go through ELUC in terms of getting building permits and those kinds of things. These are basically either renovation or new construction projects that are being handled by pretty large developers. They are commercial or industrial properties only. This program doesn't allow residential in our state. So it would be only multifamily residential if it were going to be a residential project. But the ones that are identified at the present time, I believe, are all within corporate city limits.
Okay, that's all I have. Thank you.
Mr. Storr, did you have some questions?
Yeah, I have two. Thank you. Is there a limit to the amount of money that can be charged for servicing this program?
I do not know the answer to that question yet. There's a fee that's allowed by the county, and it would cover the cost basically of the administration fee. And also the county can put a small charge on for processing the payments through our tax system.
Okay. And, okay, so it sounds like all of the monies used for the administration come from the applicant.
Yes,
Or,
they would be included in the special assessment. Ms. Furtado?
One question and then just one comment. I think this question, direct this question to you. Have you worked out all of the processes within the county to, I mean, I'm guessing this is going to impact a few different offices, including the clerk's office, the treasurer's office, I don't know, maybe the assessment team. Have we worked out all of those internal processes for this implementation?
No, the details have not been worked out yet. So the process at this point would be after the board decides it wishes to do this district, then we would look for an RFQ for the program administrator. In what I can say is the program administrator would have all of the processes and forms and documents and all the things that would be required to do that. I have spoken with the treasurer's office, the assessor's office, and the clerk's office, all to let them know the board was interested in this. And they have checked with some other counties to see how they're doing it at this point in time, but that's an individual decision of how exactly we want to do that in our own county. It's fairly pro forma. I think basically it would be set up similar to another type of district, like a TIF district or an enterprise zone district, and a special assessment would be made by the clerk's office and then go on to the tax bill. So the treasurer would put it on the tax bill like other kinds of districts or special assessments. And I don't know, we did check and see if it's, if we can put it in DevNet and those kind of things, but I don't have the details of like exact what forms we would use or things like that.
Right. I guess I think I would like to say, I think that in future, when we do these kind of mechanisms, and this is partially on me, that we should upstream the different departments that are involved earlier into the conversation. So that they're more aware of what's going on. I think I'd like to apologize to Eric and to Aaron earlier. While you both knew about this, I do think that there was probably more of a role that the ELUC committee could have played earlier in this process. And just because something is a financial mechanism, if it does have this sort of environmental component, I do think that maybe we could have had a more collaborative process. I know that this went away and part of it was because of COVID and part of it's on me because I didn't really think about those two things, but making sure that all of the elected officials who will be impacted by this and also that we have a more comprehensive conversation with ELUC are the kind of things that I'd like to see more of in the future for these kind of items. That said, I support this fully, and I think that we as a county should be thinking about more mechanisms by which we can encourage development in ways that are sustainable and just economic development in general. I think there's a lot of tools in the toolbox that we as a county have left in the drawer, and I'm excited that we're pulling one out and making it available for the businesses in our community.
Any other discussion? Okay, seeing none, would the clerk call the roll, please?
Humphrey,
Yes.
King,
Yes.
Lokshin,
Yes.
McGuire,
Yes.
Michaels,
Yes.
Hasalakwa, Paul,
Yes.
Rob,
Yes.
Rodriguez,
Yes.
Storr,
yes.
Straub,
Yes.
Summers,
Yes.
Taylor,
Yes.
Thorsland,
Yes.
Wolkin,
Yes.
Ammons,
Yes.
Cowart,
Yes.
Esri,
Yes.
Furtado,
Yes.
Goss,
Yes.
Harper,
Yes.
Patterson.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Next, we move on to new business. These were the items for the Community Development Block Grant that was previously approved by the county board, but needed to go back through the county board again because it went to RPC the first time. It was just confusion about which entity needed to apply for these funds. So if there's questions about that, Kathy Larson is here this evening to answer those. We did have the public hearing, and the executive would entertain a motion for items 1, 2, and 3, adoption of resolution number 2021-117, supporting a community development block grant downstate small business stabilization application to assist Sagamore Publishing, LLC. And number 2, adoption of resolution number 2021-118, supporting a community development block grant downstate small business stabilization application to assist LA Gourmet Catering, LLC. And number 3, adoption of resolution number 2021-119, supporting fair housing. Can I get a motion? Mr. Goss.
So moved.
Thank you. Can I get a second? Mr. Harper. Mr. Harper, are you seconding? You're muted.
Sorry, got to hit the mute button.
Okay, thank you. Are you seconding?
Yes, Ms.
Okay,
Flo.
thank you. Any discussion on this item? Okay, will the clerk call the roll, please?
Humphrey,
Yes.
King,
Yes.
Lakshin,
Yes.
McGuire,
Yes.
Michaels,
Yes.
Passalacqua, Paul,
Yes.
Rob,
Yes.
Rodriguez,
Yes.
Storr,
Yes.
Straub,
Yes.
Summers,
Yes.
Taylor,
Yes.
Thorsland,
Yes.
Wolkin,
Yes.
Ammons,
Yes.
Cowart,
Yes.
Esri,
Yes.
Furtado,
Yes.
Goss,
Yes.
Harper,
Yes.
Patterson.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Next is item number B. I'm going to do B and C together unless there's an objection. Okay, I'm taking an omnibus motion for items B and C to adopt the resolution number 2021-115, authorizing purchases not following purchasing policy, and adoption of resolution number 2021-116, authorizing payment of claims. Can I get a motion? Mr. Thorsland
I move for the adoption of both resolutions.
and Ms. Lokshin?
I will second.
Thank you. Any discussion? All right, seeing none, would the clerk call the roll, please?
Humphrey,
Yes.
King,
Yes.
Lakshin,
Yes.
McGuire,
No.
Michaels,
Yes.
Passalacqua, Paul, Rob,
Yes.
Rodriguez,
Yes.
Storr,
Yes.
Straub,
Yes.
Summers,
Yes.
Taylor,
Yes.
Thorsland,
Yes.
Wolkin,
Yes.
Ammons,
Yes.
Cowart,
Yes.
Esri,
No.
Furtado,
Yes.
Goss,
No.
Harper,
No.
Patterson.
Yes.
Motion carries. The next two items appear on your addendum. This will be item number D, the Regional Planning Commission items. The first one, can the executive get a motion for item 1 to adopt resolution number 2021-120, authorizing a short-term loan from the general fund to the Regional Planning Commission funds? Mr. Summers. Mr. Summers, you're muted if you're trying to make a motion. Oh,
Excuse me.
Mr. Thorsland? Oh,
I
go
make
ahead.
the motion.
Okay, Mr. Thorsland,
And I will second.
thank you. Any discussion? Mr. Goss?
Thank you. I'm going to start out here, and this will last for both of the motions before us, but this is an address to Auditor Danos. Let me jog your memory for a minute. You spent a few minutes on September 15th, 2020, explaining to this board, and I quote, "We are completing the bank reconciliations for 2019. My deputy auditor finished the single revenue funds last night at 12:49 a.m. We will move to General Corp next week." You went on to promise deliverable results for the board from you in October 2020, which never happened. You then assured us twice that the CAFR would be done by 12/31/2020. As many of you know, I sit on the RPC board and have for the last couple of years. And in December 2019, Auditor Danos promised in writing the 2018 CAFR by December 13th, 2019. As we all know, that didn't come out actually until July of 2020. These things have permanently damaged the reputation of our RPC, who does such a great job. Auditor Danos, you are paid to be the watchdog of the county finances, are you not? Since this is the case, then why did you let Treasurer Pressing go 400 days without completing a single bank reconciliation? Why did you fail to notice this board immediately when it did not happen? Why did you not keep on the new Treasurer Hughes to be sure the work was being completed? You are the auditor. This failure for the last 2 years falls on you. It is your responsibility to make the county board aware when things don't happen. For instance, you received the notice of this stop payment before the COW meeting. We had a committee of the whole meeting on March 9th. You never even brought it up to the board to make us aware of the notice. Did you honestly think that you'd be able to cover this up and sweep it under the rug? Your complete lack of concern is almost what bothers me the most. You've appeared before RPC a number of times without 1 ounce of concern. You make excuses, half-truths, and promises to that board to get them off your back. You've failed as an auditor for the county and should promptly submit your resignation. You, sir, are no better than the last 2 treasurers who were completely incompetent. Your performance has been substandard and not becoming of your salary.
Mr. Esri?
Thank you. First off, I would make a motion to amend this to $700,000 as opposed to the $2 million. The reasoning, I believe the 2 million is meant to last for 3 months. The 700,000 is roughly a third. Granted, it's over a third, but my thinking is 700, 600, if it would end up going to the 2 million. The reason being, I want this before the board every month if this would get approved. To me, I don't know that it does much, but 3 months is too long to let it pass and then not potentially hear anything about this for the next 3 months. It needs to be out in the public. It needs to be out in front of us board members. If this is the only way we have, to me, this is my thinking, this is about the only way we have to try and keep any pressure on the auditor's office to get the work done. If we give the full 2 million, we're good for 3 months, so I don't have to work as hard at it. And that is why I would move to amend this to $700,000 from the $2 million. Thank you.
Mr. Patterson?
To clarify, I think Mr. Esri did a motion to amend.
Yeah, yeah, we need a second if we're gonna go forward with that. You're not seconding it?
I'll second, but I have
Okay. Mr.
something.
McGuire? Okay, thank you. Now is there discussion on the amendment? Mr. Esri, let's see. Mr. Patterson, did you want to speak to that?
Yeah, I want to speak to the motion or to the amendment. I share Mr. Esri's concerns. I think it is absolutely, it should be absolutely expected and required that every month over the next 3 months that the auditors should come to the meeting and we should have an update on this issue. The one thing that gives me concern is if we vote to only do 1 month at a time, that gives a lot of uncertainty to the RPC. It gives a lot of uncertainty to the staff, as well as the thousands of residents that they serve. I think that it seems like the goal that you want to accomplish is to be able to hear the status updates every month. And I think we can achieve that without creating a situation where, there's uncertainty at RPC about whether or not, we're going to vote to approve more money. So I would encourage you to, I guess, not support this, but I think that we should make it clear and, get an agreement from the auditor that he will be here every month until we get everything figured out, giving an update.
Okay, thanks. Mr. Paul?
Yeah, our RPC is critical to Champaign County in really every facet, and they haven't done anything wrong. And it's embarrassing that a group of people that can work that hard collectively be tarnished by a single branch like that. I think it would be dangerous not to give them what they need to operate. But then we really do need to pull in something major. Can we hear from the auditor so we get a real timeline? Because Aaron is right, because if they don't turn it around, this could turn into a $21 million hole after we sign a loan to a defunct company, or subsector or whatever it is. But RPC has to function. We can't knock them for I'm overwhelmed by this. I'm getting a lot of phone calls, and it's just we have to do better. And I would like to hear from the auditor as well, if possible.
Mr. Danos is here tonight. George, would you like to speak?
Certainly. I have a memo composed today with the most recent updates, and I'd like to share that. I think that would be a great format for our discussion. I do want to preface that organized discussion with a rejoinder to two remarks that I'd heard. Jim Goss fails to distinguish between the CAFR and the return of the opinion by the external auditor. Those are two different things. You may quibble with the time that elapses between those two, but I never lied to you. My statements stand on their own. They're consistent with what I've said since. The CAFR, and it was labeled a draft, is on the county website. And I do also want to say, when you bring up the unfortunate circumstances with the treasurer, no elected countywide is my subordinate. In a democratic society, they do not report to me. They are my peers. And I will address proper relations, intergovernmental relations in my memo. There's no question we have discussions properly, consistently, and face-to-face. I do not run to the board unless I am getting such resistance as to have a constitutional problem. May I share my screen?
You might need IT help. Can you do it, George?
Do you see my memo?
Yep, it's coming. There you go.
Excellent. I'm actually blocking myself. I need to minimize the you guys. All right. I have 4 sections. I am first discussing remedies pursued by me. The second section is county alleviation of RPC cash flow. It's my perspective, auditor perspective. The third section is commentary on the law and its enforcement. And the fourth is the history of what allowed the audit to come to this impasse with the stop pay order. I'll address all four. Can you hear me all right?
Yep.
I'll try to, okay, thank you. Okay, let's see if I can minimize. I see the faces of a few of you, and it actually, I have to scroll down a bit to read. First of all, I was able to get a hold of an associate at the Federal Office of Management and Budget. He was shocked that any state had such a harsh, and he used the word harsh many times, procedure to enforce their federal audit deadline. I seek written language from him that might enable the DCEO, the Department of Commerce and Economic Opportunity in Illinois, a state agency, to suspend stop pay. OMB may issue another memo overriding the earlier rescission of 3/2020 memoranda that had provided for flexibilities, that is to say, extensions. Point number two, I have open and consistent communications with the Chief Accountability Officer at the Illinois DCEO, the relevant cognizant agency. He has identified a partial remedy to loosening grant cash flow. The grantee must ask the grantor for a payment justification for monies which address public health or safety. Recognition for this compelling reason, these are all keywords to put in the email communications, will release all LIHEAP and community service block grant funds and many other grants. By the way, those amounts come to $6.5 million, so I've confirmed those already. Those funds are not blocked. Agencies have total enforcement latitude. The Grant Accountability and Transparency Unit, GATU, has affirmed that all funds from the American Rescue Plan Act are already qualify under payment justification. And then three, I do want to correct the record from the beginning of this meeting. Once an entity is off the stop pay list, the debilities end. No scoring disadvantage occurs because of the archive. I confirmed that this afternoon with the director of Illinois GATU. I want to state that it is counterproductive and false to say that our long-term reputation is tarnished. And that's certainly not true with RPC with respect to grantors. That is my first point. Now, I'd like to discuss county alleviation of RPC cash flow. I am the auditor and I have a specific perspective. RPC states that their unrestricted funds cover 60 days of administrative costs, including payroll. The $5.3 million they request for client services is designed to keep their entire reserve, intact. So, Aaron Esri, I commend you for addressing that very point. The $2 million the county will make available from its own reserves, plus the $3.9 million RPC has in restricted reserves, can cover social services through June 1st without use of payment justification. Payment justification pushes those reserves even further and should be fully utilized. By signaling a willingness to borrow at interest, the county demonstrates, and perhaps also, I might add, I demonstrate my commitment and appreciation for RPC and its service mission. Now, I do have a comment to say about the law. Illinois deploys the draconian—
Why isn't do the audit on there? Sorry.
I accept your apology. Commentary, I'd like to make some comment on the law because I am talking to legislators. Illinois deploys the draconian stop pay order per statute and administrative code. And so you can see there it's Title 30, Illinois compiled statutes. Now, so at the very beginning of the law, it says on or before July 1st, sorry, I have to scroll down to be able to read it. The governor's OMB shall adopt rules pertaining to the following. And you see what I highlight. Factors to be considered shall include whether or not a stop payment order is in the best interests of the state. The federal government is getting ready to distribute $1.9 trillion under the ARPA, the American Rescue Plan Act, to recipients that include state and local governments. I ask, how can it be in the best interests of the state at this or at any time to impede the flow of federal dollars to local communities and governments? Stop pay needs judicial, legislative, and executive agency review. I think I'm the first to alert everyone to this at a higher level. And now the history. So Jacob, do please listen. In mid-2019, the Republican caucus leader, Jim Goss, opined in my office that the 2019 treasurer, let us call her Treasurer A, I don't name and shame, had problems that would throw off the county's 2018 audit. What neither Jim nor I could at that time forecast was that the 2020 treasurer, let us call her Treasurer B, would compound rather than relieve problems from 2019. To avert a recurrence of tardy submission of needed documents from either treasurer or circuit clerk, the auditors scheduled bi-weekly internal audit meetings with these two departmental partners. And now, I tell you, I declare, it is not reasonable to expect from the newly elected circuit clerk and treasurer delivery of documents within 1 month, which proved too difficult for their predecessors to deliver in the preceding 11 months. The departmental partners have agreed that the target date for submission by the current treasurer and circuit clerk, this is the good news, to Baker Tilly is April 7th. My June 1st deadline stands. Any questions?
Mr. McGuire.
Thank you. I have actually a lot of questions and discussion points. Sorry, Mr. Danos, after listening to you for the last couple years, explain how the audits were going to be completed on time and the issues with the treasurers. Mr. Paul's right. The idea that our financial system is in such a poor shape that you finally bring in this memo to the county board. The work wasn't done in 2018 when it should have been done. It wasn't done in 2019 when it should have been done. And now it's not being done now. And the fact that you covered it up and didn't tell anybody on the board with the cow that we were going to put Head Start, LIHEAP, all the other programs that RPC handles, and we could not prepare for it. And now we've got them asking for $5.3 million to ensure that the most vulnerable people in our county are at risk is ridiculous. It's a nursing home all over again. They sucked out $20 million of the county. We just had to vote to stop a loan of $5 million. You've been sitting there, you and your caucus, doing nothing. And everybody has come to you and asked when things were going to be fixed. When Presley was in there, the second treasurer was there, and now this. So this resolution is completely ridiculous, that we should expect you to report to this board that the money is going to be spent properly. You should resign, as Mr. Goss explained. You're not doing your job. You're not presenting information to the county as you should do it. We can't continue to borrow money and move money out of our reserve to bail out RPC because you can't do your work. First off, I don't know why the resolution isn't separated between the loan and the loan from the reserve and the secondary loan and the $5.3 million. Mr. Esri's right. The money should be broken out, $700,000, because we need to be able to understand what's going to happen with the funds. Mr. Delitzo and Betty, they do fantastic work. The staff does fantastic work, and that we're being put in this position now to have to loan them money. Delitzo, I do have some questions. You talked about the fact that we're under the same tax number. How would we separate those? How long would it take so that your funding is not going through the county and you don't have to worry about the poor performance? And how would Head Start, which I believe is a county fund, county organized fund, be affected if the funds were moved?
I think, Mr. McGuire, if you don't mind, we'll save that to the update of the auditor. That'll be later on the agenda. We're talking about
I'd
it.
like to understand, I'd like to understand what we're dealing with. If we're going to determine that we're going to take $2 million out of the reserve and loan it without question. The other thing
Okay.
about this resolution, since they're both together, is since we're moving money from one fund to another, we require 15 votes to pass. But I would like the information so that we can understand the situation that RPC is in.
Yeah, I know. We're talking about right now the loaning of the money. I don't know if we're going to be able to resolve the issue about whether or not RPC separating from the county is a good idea. That's a whole separate question.
Well, there's part of that question is that, as been stated, RPC sends money to 15 counties.
Mhm.
And I don't know what happens if we loan them $2 million. How much of that money is being spent outside of the Champaign County? Money coming from Champaign County, the public, taxpayers. And then if Donos does not complete the audit on time, do we lose the $2 million or the $5.3 million spending money in the area counties? I don't think that
Well,
would be
maybe
appropriate.
maybe Delitzo could better answer that because he knows where the money's going.
Yes, and I also have Betty, she's on the panel. It's our understanding at this point that this is a temporary stop payment. And so we understand that once the audit is completed and filed or uploaded, that the state would resume allowing us to draw down funds. And I would say that at that point in time, we would draw down the funds based on the expenditures would have incurred up to that point and reimburse the county for whatever amount of money we would have used in the interim. So it wouldn't, yeah.
No, sorry, go ahead. I don't want to.
Yeah, I think the question, Delitzo, was the county regional planning commission actually has programs that cover
Right.
other counties as well.
We do. So for instance, with our workforce program, we're in 5 counties. And that's a grant that's through DCEO. And then the other program that is, we just basically have staff in some cases providing services. They're RPC employees, but they're providing services in other counties. So our biggest one would be Independent Services Coordination Program, where we work with individuals that have developmental disabilities. And we have staff that are providing those services in, I think, about 15 counties, but they are RPC county, Champaign County RPC employees.
Okay.
Ms. Rodriguez, did you have a question?
I didn't think I was finished.
Well, we're gonna.
I think
One
the Democrats are allowed
one question apiece, and then I'll come back, Jim.
Thanks, Mr. McGuire.
Question.
I'm happy to reserve the majority of my questions for the upcoming section, but I just want to briefly note I am excited to see this outrage that we're hearing translate into really actionable steps from the county board and how to invest in the success of these departments. That's all that I got. Happy to talk this through further in the next section.
Okay, Ms. Furtado, did you have something about this amendment?
Yeah, just 2 things. One, I would like to hear what the rest of Mr. McGuire's questions were. And I hope that we do that as soon as I'm done. But the other thing I wanted to say is this, and Mr. Esri, I appreciate where you're coming from this amendment. I will say this. I will say that, first of all, I think that Delitzo and his team deserve the security of knowing that the period is covered in its entirety. And I think that that is important for the services that we provide and for the staff that we provide, that security is there. I mean, I have full confidence that this board would vote 3 separate times in order to support RPC, but I do not think it is necessary. I think that we can vote now, and I am personally committing to you that the audit will be on the agenda at every cow between now and when it is done. And the audit will be on the agenda between every cow between now and when the 2020 audit is issued. because as other people have pointed out, we are going to quickly have to move into the 2020 audit. So we will be receiving updates on the audit until we are back to a regular schedule. And that does not and that mechanism does not necessitate us putting DeLitzo and RPC and all of the hardworking staff there into a constant month-by-month uncertainty. I also wanted to point out that Tammy Ogden worked very hard on figuring out what she thought was the best mechanism in order to ensure the viability of RPC between now and when the audit is submitted. Looked at multiple different options in terms of funding. This is the option that in consult with our bond counsel and the state's attorney's office seemed to be the most viable. And I think I have the utmost confidence in Tammy and her work. And I think that supporting this as it currently stands is the best path forward. So while I understand your concern, Mr. Esri, I don't think that this particular amendment is necessary in order to get the result that you seek.
Okay, we'll now go back to Mr. McGuire. Do you have another question, Jim?
Obviously, Mr. DeLitzo discussed the fact that the money would come back if the audit was completed. We're saying we have to protect the RPC, which is something that I'd like to do also. But there is nothing in this resolution that confirms that the audit will be completed or anything will be changed. I don't expect that Mr. Danos will complete the audit in time unless there's some mechanism to pressure him to do it. And that's what I think Mr. Esri is trying to accomplish, that by breaking this up and giving the $700,000 a month, and I wouldn't actually approve the short-term loan at all. There's nothing that you say that would convince me that things will change, and I want them changed because I don't want the RPC to be unfunded. We have destroyed their reputation already. They do a magnificent job of getting grants and aid from the federal and state government, and our poor performance as a financial, the treasurer and the auditor has put that at risk and future grants. So unless there's some money attached, some change to this resolution, I won't support it. I won't support the short-term loan because I don't expect you to do what you say you're going to do.
Hey, Mr. Esri?
Point of order, you're supposed to switch between parties.
Yeah, and Mr. Patterson.
I am. Does somebody, well, I'm supposed to switch not between parties, but between people who have a pro and a con. So let's put it this way. Does somebody want to speak in favor of the motion?
Yes, that's why
Okay.
my hand's up.
Great. Go ahead, Kyle.
Are in favor. Well, he just, anyways.
We're doing pros and cons. So I guess actually.
The rules say, if you check the rules, it says that you're supposed to prioritize switching between parties and prioritizing people who haven't spoken. Anyways, I mean, I guess I'm just sort of trying to understand the logic of the amendment. I mean, I definitely share the same goal. I want the audit to be done by June. I mean, I would hope that it'd be done sooner than that if we can take extra steps. And I also want us to have updates at every COW and every county board meeting on the progress of the audit. Like Stephanie said, both through the 2019 audit and also until the 2020 audit is done, because I think everybody here shares concern about the 2020 audit winding up in the same place. But what I don't understand is if what we're proposing is funding it through May, and George says that he's going to have the audit done at the time that we're funding it, how is us coming back and voting to approve it every month in between then going to motivate him to get to June on time? I guess I just don't really follow how that's going to influence that. And, discussions of, we don't have certainty of how this money is going to be spent. I think everybody on this board has a profound level of respect for the professionalism, the competency, just the way that RPC executes financially. They bring in millions and millions of dollars of grants every year. They execute those grants, they deliver their services. As we said, no aspect of these audits being behind has to do with any sort of malfeasance on their end. I understand that for many members of the board, have expressed mistrust of Auditor Danos. And the reality is that he is not the one that's spending this money. RPC is spending this money. RPC has laid out this plan. This is not a plan. If your distrust is with him, he didn't come up with this plan. So I feel like what we are doing is we are, in a way, punishing RPC even more as a way to try to punish George. And I don't think that we should be taking that sort of angle. We need to offer certainty. The programs that this agency provides are extremely vital to people surviving. Most of the people on this board have never been in a situation to where you have to utilize those services. And when you create a situation where month to month, the people who have modest pay over there, who provide these vital services, don't know month to month if their program's going to have funding, that's going to create a lot of uncertainty with the staff. That is going to lead to personnel problems for the people who operate these vital programs. So, we could create a situation where the money's there, but the staff's not there to implement it because we set up a system where month to month, they don't know whether they're going to have funding. I'm pissed off just like you guys are. I work with RPC all the time. A lot of the people who I work with who are low income, who are struggling like most of us wouldn't believe, utilize their services and they save people's lives. We have to offer certainty to them. This is the county's fault. And if we continue to take steps, which, like I said, I just don't really follow the logic of voting month to month to approve that and how that relates to making sure George is done by June 1st. If we do that, we're going to create a lot of uncertainty and it is not going to be constructive. So if you're pissed off that George didn't do things to support RPC, step up and support RPC. And doing this month-to-month stuff is not supporting RPC.
Hey, Mr. Goss?
Thank you. I think the correct person to actually put under the gun here is to put an amendment out there that says if the audit's not done by June 1st, Mr. Danos resigns. That puts the pressure where is appropriate, because that's the reality of this situation. That's where it falls. The buck has to stop there. And I've got to support RPC. I'm on the board. They do way too much good for this community. And again, everybody said it. It's the most underserved. It's the people that haven't had a chance. And so I can't support the amendment for that reason, but I'd be happy to put forward an amendment if that fails. That puts the onus where it needs to be, and that's on Auditor Danos to actually perform. Thank you.
Okay, does anybody else have anything to say that has not spoken? Mr. Harper, I don't believe you've said anything yet.
Yes, thank you, Darlene. Been sitting here listening. I think there's enough blame to go around for everybody. It's terrible because of the things that RPC does accomplish, as Mr. Patterson, Mr. Goss, Ms. Furtado, everybody has stated. They do wonderful things for people in this county and surrounding counties. had my notepad here and I told our caucus, basically I was going to write down excuses. Because in the last 2.5 years, all I ever got when I asked a question was excuses. Well, we're all here. We all have to take responsibility. I truly appreciate what Stephanie said a while ago. Some good things have been said by everybody. But there's enough blame to go around on every elected official we've done. I don't want to see one party blamed over another party. Yes, the Republicans ran this county for years. But guess what? The Democrats have had control of our board for over 20 years. So there's blame to go everywhere, folks. And it just upsets me. Let's get this figured out. Mr. Goss is right. Mr. Danos has to step up to the plate and get this done. Because in the real world, you don't do your job, the boss tells you don't let the door hit you in the ass on the way out. It's just terrible. And just to make a little note here, I took my little stipend check in for $55 into the bank in town the other day, just going to cash it. I was asked, and probably in jest, is this check any good? Is this the reputation this county wants? A lot of you know me. I'm going to tell you, I don't care if you're the Queen of England. If you screw up, I'm going to get up your throat and down your ass. Mr. Patterson's right. There's enough blame, everybody. It's time to quit kicking the can down the road, however you want to state it. It's time to get this county back on its feet and moving in the right direction. I don't want to hear excuses. You've heard me say this for 2.5 years. I don't care who the person is. If they do their job right, I will be behind them 100%. That's all. Thank you.
Ms. Michaels.
Thank you, ma'am. I just have a question with regards to this. The way I'm feeling for the 1 month money, if you will, I don't know how to put this at this point, is partly because I believe there are letters that have been written. We're not certain whether some of these funds will be released or not. I think maybe in the next 30 days, we may have a clearer picture on some of this. And there may be interest due, different things like that, that at least in this first period, I would love to support here's 30 days, come back and tell me what you found out. Now, if we have to do this for longer, then so be it. But I think there's a lot of variables right now that are kind of out there, and we don't have any answers that I think maybe within the next 30 days, a lot of it could be answered. And then that'll tell us where to focus. We can always have a special meeting. That's not a bad or a hard thing to do. So I guess that's where my quandary comes in at.
Okay, Ms. Furtado.
I will just say, I want us to be very clear that by taking this vote, we are not going to then just turn around and write a check for $5.5 million we only will be taking money, and we'll start first with the fund balance money, and then we would only access the promissory note money if we need it, right? Based on the draws that RPC is submitting and then is not able to get. So we can take a vote that gives them the financial security that they need if it's the worst case scenario, right? I have the utmost confidence that DeLizzo and his team will first try to get every draw that they could possibly get using the mechanism that George described. But there is no need for us to keep coming back to it. I mean, I want to just reiterate what Kyle said. I feel as if we take that step and it's the month-to-month thing, what if we're just slightly off and the draw is, another $100,000? And so then we're going to have a special meeting where we pay all the board members to come to a special meeting, which, I've tried to not get paid for some of our special meetings. Apparently they still send you the checks. So I just think that it would be better to take the worst case scenario vote and trust that RPC is only going to ask for the funds that they need. I want to reiterate what Kyle is saying. I am taking this vote in expression of my trust and confidence in RPC.
Mr. Esri,
Yes, thanks. I have no question in my mind that RPC spends their money well, that they do their diligent work with where they're spending the money, that they would do diligent work with trying to keep the money coming in without using any money from the county. My whole issue is the idea that we're going to give them everything at once, potentially for 3 months. And part of that is I haven't heard anybody guarantee how quick the state would release the stop payment when and if the audit is done June 1st. How long does the state move? We know sometimes the state can move at a snail's pace. The idea that we're going to just give this all at once, give the authority for, I should say, because I know we aren't going to necessarily just we aren't going to write out the full amount to begin with, but that we're going to give the authority for the full amount at once just does not sit right with me. So I'm going to just tell you that if the amendment fails, I will not vote for the resolution as originally planned. If my amendment were to pass, I would personally guarantee that I will vote for 3 months of this at 700, 600, and I'll be making the same motion again, even if I know it's not going to pass, for the second one to go to 1.1 million. Again, the idea a month at a time, and that's how I'll vote for them, but I will not vote for them for the full amount. That's where I'm standing. The idea that we're hurting people, not only in our county, but in up to 15 counties because of screw ups in 3 elected officials' offices in this county is appalling to me. How 3 elected officials, and there is some competency with us board members too, because we weren't crowing loud enough that, hey, something is wrong here when it obviously was wrong. But we again have no authority over these elected officials. Mr. Danos pointed out he has no authority over the other elected officials, and that is true. But yet Mr. Danos is supposed to be the watchdog for the county taxpayers. It is on the front page of the county auditor's website if you care to go to it and look at it. He's supposed to be doing continuous internal audits. Right there, it says continuous internal audits of all county funds. Is this not getting done? This has to stop somewhere. And to me, the only way to keep pressure and to get any kind of pressure to get anybody to potentially make sure that this gets done is to do it 1 month at a time. And that's where I stand. That's where I'm drawing my line. I will gladly vote for a month at a time. I would guarantee that I will vote for another 700,000 if it's still needed in April and in May. If it goes beyond the 3 months, then we would have to potentially see. But I have to draw the line somewhere. I hate this. Again, I hate the fact that this is hurting the people of Champaign County and other counties outside of us. But at this point in time, it appears that Champaign County is trying to be the Illinois of the United States. We're trying to be the best of the worst in terms of our financials. That's sure what it seems to me like at times. We're number 1 at the worst in terms of financials, and that does not sit right with me. This needs to change, people. Thank you.
okay, at this point in time, I think Mr. Storr is the only one that hasn't spoken at least twice. Go ahead, Chris.
Thank you. Mr. Delizzo, and I think it's Dr. Delizzo, Dr. Sulamoyo. Is the need for funds by the RPC so predictable that you draw a certain amount every month, or is it fluctuate quite a bit and you may have higher or lesser need from, month to month or even within a month?
So to that question, I'm going to defer to Betty Murphy, who's on the line, and she can explain to you how fiscal staff essentially do the drawdowns from the state. Betty?
Thank you. Yes, what we do is we do ongoing drawdowns from the state, and these are state funds as well as federal pass-through funds. So we're on a strictly a reimbursement basis, so we don't draw funds until we have actual expenditures that are documented in the payroll register and then in the county's general ledger. So all of our funds are on a reimbursement basis, so we're constantly drawing funds. We know what our weekly accounts payable are for our three funds, which are the general operating, the workforce development, and the early childhood fund. Those are about $289,000 per week. And then we will apply the RPC's unrestricted reserve against those before we would then ask the county for reimbursement. Likewise, our biweekly payroll is $300,000. So we would, again, apply our unrestricted reserve first and then bill the county for the difference. I'd also like to call the board's attention to a notice that we got yesterday from the Illinois Department of Commerce. It's a notice of statewide funding restriction. This letter was sent to the Champaign County Regional Planning Commission and the Champaign County State's Attorney's Office. Because of the noncompliance with the audit reporting requirements, and because we are still in noncompliance and the deficiency has not been resolved, all cash and future funding to the grantee, which the grantee in this case is the entire entity of Champaign County, not just the Regional Planning Commission. All cash and future funding from the department has been suspended, and the department may initiate grant fund collection efforts. Please note that until these issues are resolved, grantee is ineligible to receive any additional grant funds from the department, and because of these outstanding issues, may be unable to obtain funds from other Illinois state agencies or execute or modify any grant agreement or contract with any state agency that would provide the grantee with additional funds. And I think, as Delitzo may have pointed out earlier, our staff has prepared over $18.9 million of grants that are to be executed on July 1st, the first date of the state's fiscal year. None of those grants can be processed or reviewed. So we're very concerned that unless the single audit is expedited and submitted in advance, frankly, of June 1st, all of these grants are in jeopardy. So it's a very serious threat to our ongoing operations. And that $18.8 million does not include the new federal stimulus that'll be passed through to the state. So those would be suspended as well. Thank you.
I have a question.
Okay.
Betty, when you refer to the stimulus funds, are those the ones remitted to the county under ARPA?
Yeah, so just like with the CARES Act funding, that flows. Many of those are federal pass-through that flow.
I'm glad to hear that. No, your argument is precisely the opposite. I think that you perhaps made your remarks before this meeting, but in the memo that I gave, and I hope it engaged you, I did get confirmation from the director of GATU, of Lori Beals, that money is absolutely held harmless. That money will flow. Please, I don't want you to harm your reputation in any way that's unnecessary. I'm trying to uphold it.
Okay, I think that everybody has spoken at least twice, and we need to go ahead and vote.
And I think a lot of people.
Delitzo has his hand up.
Well, he does, but he's not a board member.
Would like to speak, but I do want to be able to have an opportunity.
Okay, I understand, Jim. If you're going to say something new, we'll be glad to hear it. If it's a repeat, then no.
My comment should not be rejected just because you think it would be or would not be new. You shouldn't make that decision on your own.
But you've already spoken twice.
I want to make a point of order. Any member of the body has the right to speak. If we wish to end debate when members still want to speak, somebody needs to do a motion to end debate in a second, and we'd have to vote on that. So
okay. Robert,
if that's not happening, Mr. McGuire has the right to speak until his face turns blue.
I understand that you would like to do that. I'm saying we are following Robert's rules, and Robert's rules say that each member of the body has the right to speak twice. And then it's it's a decision
There's
that you
been
make.
multiple people speaking more than twice.
I understand. We've talked about this issue for quite some time. I will be happy to hear one more time. What would you like to say? Go ahead, Jim. You have the floor.
There's a couple things, but first, I'd like to defend Ms. Murphy that she has been doing in her position for multiple years. And I trust her ultimately with, and far more, Mr. Danos, who just questioned her integrity and should apologize. We are here because he hasn't done his job. There's two separate issues. Their funding, which is being held up because of the audit, and our ability as a county to support their payroll and funds based on this resolution. This resolution has some major flaws. One is it combines two separate loans. They should be dealt with separately. And we don't have to pay them all $5.3 million up front and give them access, although I trust them far more than I trust Mr. Danos. I'm just afraid that we won't have any control over what happens with the money as it moves forward. And there would be no pressure each month for us to come back here and have to vote again. Thank you.
Don't worry, Jim. I'm going to be applying pressure to Mr. Danos.
Okay, Ms. Michaels?
Yeah, I apologize. Do we need to suspend the rules? If so, I'd like to suspend the rules in order for Dr. Sulamoyo to talk, please.
If you ask him as a board member, that's fine. He doesn't have the floor otherwise, but if you ask him as a board member question, he can answer it.
I don't have a question per se, but I would like to hear a comment from Dr. Sulamoyo on the issue that we're talking, if that is okay.
That's fine. Thank you.
Please. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Michaels. What I wanted to address is something that was brought up by the county auditor. It might have been after Ms. Murphy provided her information. I want to let the board know that yes, indeed, we have been in touch with pretty much all of our state funding entities in relation to this loophole that was shared with the accountability officer from DCEO earlier this week. And just to share with you, just within DCEO itself, he pointed out in his presentation that 2 of our grants would be allowed to be processed. That is true, LAHIP and CSPG. But within DCEO, we have other funds that they have been denied as of today, that those would not fit the criteria. And one of those major grants is our workforce funding, which is about, Betty, is it about $3.5 million total?
Yes, 3.2 million.
3.2 million. And with that, we were in the process of submitting an application to do a youth initiative. And we could not continue with the submission of that grant because of this status that we're in. The state will not process, and we have that in writing from DCEO. So I just want to let the board know that we are doing our best as well to try and figure out, ways to get the state to provide whatever exemptions they can so that we can have access to the resources. So we're not just trying to rely on the funding from the county. We're doing everything we can to get access to the state funding, but it's very unpredictable. It's very confusing at this point. We've never been in this situation, and I just want to say that again. And I trust, Betty. She's the one who provides me with most of the information. She has researched a lot of this, looked at the regs, and all we've done so far is we've focused on the facts. We're not here to overstate the issues. We're just basically operating based on the facts that we know as they've been presented to us. Thank you.
Okay. So I think it's time that we vote on this amendment to this motion. The amendment was to amend the emotion of the resolution in front of you by making the amount $700,000 rather than $2 million. And I think we're ready for a roll call vote on that. So if you are in favor of the amendment to change the amount from $700 to,
Point of information,
I'm sorry,
Tammy Ogden has her hand up and she might have information that is germane to this vote. So I would like to hear from Tammy.
okay, thank you, Tammy.
I think that there needs to be some clarification because the loan resolution itself is for 5.3 million. So are we saying that the loan in full would be 700,000? We're just talking about the 2 million and not the 5.3 million. And if I could give a little bit of background, the reason that this was structured like this, because the request from RPC that came last Friday on the 12th was for $5.3 million. Obviously, this is a very fluid situation. Things are constantly changing, but this was structured to allow the board to move forward with the most aggressive approach to be able to meet what RPC believed their needs were last Friday. So Champaign County General Fund, in my opinion, cannot support more than $2 million, which is why I went ahead and discussed with bond counsel the option of proceeding with a promissory note should we need to tap into that. That's a process that's going to take a little bit of time. RPC's request for $5.3 million was for a 3-month period, which is actually $1.7 million a month, far more than $700,000. So I think my concerns are that if we're changing this loan to $700,000, I don't believe that that would meet the need of RPC for an entire month. And I know that that's, again, a fluid situation depending on, how much they're able to draw down on the grants that don't have the stop payment. And Betty and Delitza would be, better suited to say if $700,000 between now and next month would be sufficient for you.
Mr. Esri, your hand is raised. You're muted, Aaron.
Sorry, I thought I hit the button on the screen with the mouse. I thought, are we discussing both 1 and 2 right now?
We are only just, well, I think the conversation got a little bit onto everything.
Okay.
So
well,
we started out, we have a motion on the floor for number 1, which is the short-term loan. And then you made the amendment to that motion for 700,000 as opposed to the 2 million.
Okay, that was my understanding, and I think I mentioned it. When we get to number 2, even if my amendment on number 1 doesn't pass, I'm still going to make a motion to amend number 2, D2, to 1.1 million. So in other words, my intention would be that RPC would have potential access this first month to $1.8 million, the $700,000 in a loan, and then a 1.1 promissory note. And then the next month would be the same, and the third month would be 1.7 million, because 700, 700, and 600 equals the 2 million, and then 1.1, 1.1, 1.1 equals the 3.3. That's where I'm coming from.
Okay. The motion on the table right now is just for the first item, and
Point of information. So let me just please explain this, although I think Tammy probably could too. What we're voting on right now is the full 5.5 million. The money from the full 5.5 million would come from the general fund. It would include the money we currently have in the general fund and the money that we would get from the loan if it was needed. The money will always come from the general fund. The second vote is just the authority to allow us to go out and do the promissory note. There's one, unless I'm totally misunderstanding, and Tammy could correct me if I'm wrong. Right now we're voting on the entirety of the money. The second is on the authority to go out and get the promissory note. And Tammy, if I'm wrong on that, then I've really just not understood what the two votes were. But my understanding is we have one vote on funding, one vote on authority. And maybe I'm wrong. And if I'm wrong, I apologize. But I guess it's a good thing that we brought Tammy into the question, because that is my understanding of what the two votes are. And I also want to say, in terms of in order to do the promissory note, we have to put that out on the street and get a bid. So if you're also suggesting that we split that up, then we would have to do that 3 separate times. And I think that that's a very important thing to know. So I just wanted to say that. And Tammy, maybe you could correct me if I'm wrong.
So the intent is that we would not actually issue the promissory note unless we exceed the $2 million from the general fund balance. So I'm a little unclear if we're talking about loaning $700,000 from the general fund and then issuing a $1.1 million promissory note. The intent would be that we would use the general fund up to the $2 million to meet the needs of RPC. But if the board so chooses, they would give authority for us to request bids and issue the promissory note if it looks as though we're going to exceed the $2 million. So if this board says we're not interested in discussing anything above the 2 million or whatever number you choose right now, then this loan resolution basically needs to be amended by you to indicate how much you are willing to extend to RPC at this time. And if it is under $2 million or it is $2 million, we can just strike the language from here that, well, actually you just wouldn't pass the promissory note, and you would reduce the 5.3 million to whatever it is you wish that you to loan them from the general fund.
Just for a point of clarity, I just pulled up the actual resolution, which I know we just got today, but resolution 2021-120 we are voting on $5.3 million. That is what the current vote is.
Right.
So yes, so the
so you cannot change the 2 million to 700,000 and then not change the 5.3 million.
Okay, so what we're voting on right now is changing the amount of the 2 million. What I think what you're saying, Aaron, is you're changing the amount of the 2 million down to 700,000, which would then also change the total amount from the 5 million down to what? What would the number be?
Well, tell you the truth, I'll admit that I was a little confused on this, maybe in part from getting it so late. But the way I understand it now, yes, okay, I see that we're potentially voting on the whole 5.3. So I would really and truly then, if the seconder of my motion, which I believe was Mr. McGuire, would go along with it, I would change it to 1.8 million from the get-go instead of the 700,000, with my previous idea of a third of the 2 million roughly, and then a third of the 3.3 promissory note to make it 1.8 million, and then 1.8 million in April and 1.8 million in May, should it come to that, if that's
So
possible.
I think the question, Aaron, is if we do that, if you're below 2 million, we won't need the promissory note at all. We just do the 2 million, and then we don't do the promissory note.
Then change it to 1.8 million and leave it there for now. 1 million up to 1.8 million loan and no promissory note would be what I would amend it to.
You're saying so the total amount would be 1.8 million instead of the 5 million something.
Correct. If the seconder, and again, if
So
that was Mr. McGuire.
Mr. McGuire, did you make the second on that motion?
Yes, I did.
Okay, so are you willing to take that amendment?
That was actually part of my discussion. I mean, I don't mind trying to figure out, like was said, that we have to understand what the promissory note would mean if it's needed in the future. But if I don't want them both together and automatically say that we're going to pass the promissory note here tonight.
Okay, so what we're doing is making an amendment to say the total amount would be 1.8 million that we're loaning the RPC, and that the amount from the general, well, we wouldn't need to take anything except out of the general fund, so we don't need the promissory note. That's the amendment on the table. So, okay, we have 4 hands up again for more discussion. So let me just tell you clearly, I'm reading Robert's rules right here. A member can speak twice to the motion on the same day, but he or she can take the second term only after everyone else who wishes to speak the first time has spoken. Each member can speak for 10 minutes. The debate must be germane to the motion at hand. The speakers must address all remarks to the chair, not to each other. That's the rules out of Robert's rules. So everyone that's speaking here, I believe, has spoken second time except for maybe Jennifer. Jennifer, would you like to speak?
Yeah, I just have a question. So from what Ms. Ogden said, my understanding is that if we need a promissory note, we need to start getting approval for that now. We need to shop around, basically. And if we don't do that now, if it becomes needed later, we may have some trouble. Am I understanding things correctly? This is all new to me, and I want to make sure that we're all on the same page. If we vote for this amendment and somehow we end up basically punishing RPC because we've not shopped around for this promissory note, I want us all to come back here to this meeting and remember that we voted on this amendment. Am I correct in my understanding?
There is a time, there is a time lag between when you want to vote for the promissory note, when you give us authority to do that, and then when we can actually get it. It takes a little time to work that out with the paperwork and the approvals and all those things. So yes, there would be a time lag. Ms. Furtado, your hand is up. Would you like to say one more thing?
Yes, just briefly, if we go down this path, I want you to understand what it takes to do a promissory note. So first of all, Tammy already is overworked. What you're going to be doing is putting more work on her plate as she's trying to put together the budget projections and the beginning of the budget steps, right? So you're going to make her have to do this every month. Secondly, the treasurer's office has work that they have to do to issue the promissory note. Like they have to contact the banks. So again, we're trying to have the treasurer get done wrap up what they need to do for 2019 so they can move on to the 2020 audit. And what your proposal does is put more unnecessary work. If we step it into several different promissory notes, then we also have to monitor several different promissory notes. Maybe they will end up not being with the same bank. All this is doing is creating more work and giving more uncertainty to RPC. Again, what Kyle was saying is if your goal is to put pressure on George, you are putting pressure on all of the other offices. Some of the offices which we need to have laser focus in order to get this done. So this amendment is even worse than the previous amendment. If we really want to just take care of this, let's vote on it once so that we could then get to moving on the audit and RPC could be secure. This to me is worse than the previous one.
Mr. Patterson.
I guess just as a last point, I'll try to be quick. If we're going to support RPC, let's support RPC. They've asked us for what they need to have certainty and have security. I think that we should honor their request instead of, amendments that, I'm not trying to be a jerk, but by your own admission, you didn't understand fully the circumstance. So, let's not play around with amendments last second. If we're going to support RPC, then let's support RPC. They've asked us for something. Let's do that. The county has let them down. None of us are in disagreement on that. Let's stop letting them down and do what they asked. How does us approving an amendment in April and in May put pressure on George? That doesn't put pressure on George. As Stephanie said, that puts pressure on Tammy. That puts pressure on RPC. It does not put pressure on George for us to vote for these budget amendments every month. I mean, unless you're considering voting no on transferring money, it doesn't make sense to bring it forward again. So let's stop. Let's move forward. There are other ways if you want to, hold George accountable. There's other ways to do that. This does not do that.
Mr. McGuire, is your hand raised again?
Yes, it is. I wish I would have heard that passion over the last couple of years as the treasurer's office and Mr. Danos hadn't completed the audit in the first place, because that's where the concern should, or the responsibility lies. And I don't accept the responsibility for putting us in this position. I don't know why you keep saying the county board. In the last year, when the audit wasn't done, brought up the fact that Head Start wouldn't be funded. But yet we waited and we waited, and we let Mr. Danos not report to the county board. You're responsible. So I don't want to just give authority to borrow $5.3 million. Now, I don't mind having the authority so she can go through the process of looking for the promissory note, but I want the promissory note to come back to be voted on. She's gonna have to do the work anyway. Unfortunately, we gotta do a lot of extra work around here because we don't fund the county properly. So that's why the resolution should be changed.
Okay, the resolution to be voted on is the amendment at this point in time, which is reducing the amount, the total amount that the county would agree to loan RPC at $1.8 million from the amount that's currently listed at $500 and something thousand, or $5 million something thousand. So we are going to now vote on the amendment. Would the clerk call the roll, please? Are you in favor of changing that amount?
Humphrey,
No.
King,
No.
Lakshin,
No.
McGuire,
Yes.
Michaels,
No.
Pasalakwa, Paul,
No.
Rob,
Nope.
Rodriguez,
No.
Storr,
No.
Straub,
No.
Summers,
No.
Taylor,
No.
Thorsland,
No.
Wolkin,
No.
Ammons,
No.
Cowart, Esri,
Yes.
Furtado,
No.
Goss,
No.
Harper,
Yes.
Patterson,
No.
Okay, the amendment has failed. So we'll go back to the original motion for the adoption of the amount that's listed in the resolution. And we have further discussion on that. Mr. Goss.
Thank you. I move to amend the original motion or the original resolution to add the language that should the audit not be completed by June 1st, the entire board ask for the resignation of the auditor, George Danos.
Second.
Second by Mr. Paul. Discussion on the amendment. Seeing no discussion, would the clerk call the roll, please, on the amendment to add the statement, should the audit not be completed by, would you read it back? Would you read back what they actually said?
are you speaking to me?
Yeah, the recorder. So would you read back what it said in the, should the audit not be completed, et cetera?
Member Goss offered an amendment to call for the auditor's for the entire board to call for the auditor's resignation should the audit not be presented June 1st.
Okay. So would you call the roll now, please?
Correction.
Oh, well,
I said completed, not presented.
completed.
Fair.
Okay, would you call the roll, please, Matt?
Humphrey,
No.
King,
No.
Lockshin,
No.
McGuire,
Yes.
Michaels,
Yes.
Pasalakwa, Paul,
I just want to say this is an opportunity for direct accountability. I vote yes.
Rob,
No.
Rodriguez,
No.
Storr,
No.
Straub,
No.
Summers,
No.
Taylor,
No.
Thorsland,
No.
Wolkin,
Agree with Mr. Paul's comment. Yes.
Ammons,
No.
Howard, Esri,
Yes.
Furtado,
No.
Goss,
Yeah, it's nice to see you guys don't stand for what you talk about. Yes.
Harper,
Yes.
Patterson,
No.
Okay, the amendment fails. We go back to the original motion at this point for the resolution as originally stated. Any further discussion? Mr. Esri?
Yes, thank you. Quick question. I believe Mr. McGuire brought it up earlier. Does this require 15 affirmative votes? Just checking.
It does not. No, it does not.
To clarify, I received guidance from Matt Banich today saying that it does.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Tammy, did you talk to somebody?
No, I didn't, but I believe the last time we did this, it was a majority. But I would defer to the state's attorney.
Okay, well, if Matt told you that it did, Kyle, then I guess it does. It's not a budget amendment. It is a loan from the county, which is a money issue.
I can read the rule.
Do you have the rule, Jim?
Yep, that's why I told you. It required it before.
Did it? When we did the loans before, it did require 15?
No. That
Okay.
says, I can't bring it up. Motions, resolution, ordinance, voting, roll call. 8F, transfers from one appropriation of any one fund to another of the same fund, affecting the total amount appropriated and appropriations in excess of those authorized by the budget in order to meet immediate emergency may be made at any meeting. The board by 2/3 vote. Obviously, we're moving money from the reserve fund to RPC.
Right. So Tammy, when you checked with the auditor, that was going to be an actual move of the funds, or is it just a book thing where he's keeping track?
Well, it will be recorded on the balance sheet, but yes, there would have to be cash moved. And I was going to look at the financial policies. The financial policies say the county treasurer is responsible for investment of all county funds. With county board approval, the treasurer may make a short-term loan of idle monies from one fund to another, subject to the following criteria. Such loan does not conflict with any restrictions on the use of the source fund, and such loan is to be repaid to the source fund within the current fiscal year.
What our rules of the county board can be considered a restriction. Obviously, we have rules. If we're not going to follow them, then
Jim, what were you citing? What did you read from?
The county board rules.
The county board rules with the ordinances requirements.
Oh, the county board rules. Okay. Well,
Kyle, did you specifically ask Matt? Kyle, did you
What's that?
specifically ask Matt today?
Yep, I forwarded the email to the full board and Tammy just now.
Okay.
thank you.
But yeah, he said that it's going to be 15 votes, and he cited precedent.
Yep, okay, thank you. Well, we'll go with that. That's the state's attorney's opinion. We'll go with that. All right, so then this one will require 15 votes. Mr. Harper, your hand is up.
Yes, I was just gonna state, this is a terrible situation for RPC, Delotzto and Betty. All I see is if we don't keep the reins in on this because of the incompetence of 3 offices, we could be looking at another nursing home disaster, folks. If we don't control it right now. That's all I got to say.
Ms. Rodriguez?
I simply want to note a trend. This Republican minority seems to be continuously surprised when they sow chaos and then discover that they actually have power. I would just encourage this Republican minority to use your caucus opportunities better to sort this out and to work through the implications of your actions before we come to a major vote like this. Thank you.
Mr. Thorsland?
I just want to point out and remind those that may want to vote no on this, that we've all, as a full board, talked about the ability for RPC to continue their programs. And we just found out we need 15 votes. So I hope we get, in a bipartisan manner, 15 votes to let RPC continue their good work.
Okay, thank you. Mr. McGuire?
I'd just like to note we didn't get the resolution till today, so we had no idea how it was written. We have the opportunity to amend it to make it so that it receives the 15 votes. It's not our actions that have created the situation, as has been said over and over again. So, have a choice.
Mr. Goss?
Yeah, I'd like to remind the Democratic majority that you just had an opportunity to actually hold an official accountable and you refused to do it. So don't talk about sowing chaos when you're unwilling to hold that possible, Ms. Rodriguez.
Second.
Okay, again, we're supposed to be talking about the issue at hand, and you should be talking to the chair, not to each other. Mr. McGuire, is your hand still up or from the previous time? Ms. Lokshin?
I just want to, I don't want to end it on that note. I would like to just end it on the note that we're voting on whether or not RPC receives the funds that they need, not on how we feel about the other caucus. So please don't withhold funds from them because you're trying to prove a point.
Okay, thank you. I think we're ready to vote. Would the clerk call the roll on item number 1, adoption of this resolution as presented?
Humphrey,
Yes.
King,
Yes.
Lokshin,
Yes.
McGuire,
No.
Michaels,
Yes.
Pasalakwa, Paul,
Yes.
Rob,
Yes.
Rodriguez,
Yes.
Storr,
Yes.
Straub,
Yes.
Summers,
Yes.
Taylor,
Yes.
Thorsland,
Yes.
Wolken,
Yes.
Ammons,
Yes.
Cowart, Esri,
No.
Furtado,
Yes.
Goss,
Yes.
Harper,
No.
Patterson.
Yes.
Motion carries. All right, I need to read this first. The next item for consideration is the issuance of a taxable promissory note of the county for the purpose of providing funds to the Champaign County Regional Planning Commission to finance certain operating expenses. A copy of the ordinance has been provided to all board members and sets forth the parameters for the issuance of said taxable promissory note and sale thereof by designated officials of the county. Can the executive get a motion for item number 2, which is adoption of ordinance number 2021-4, providing for the issuance of a taxable general obligation promissory note in an amount not to exceed $3,300,000 for the purpose of providing funds to the Champaign County Regional Planning Commission to finance certain operating expenses, providing for the security for and payment of said note, and authorizing the sale of said note to the purchaser thereof. Ms. King,
So moved.
Mr. Storr,
Second.
okay, thank you. Discussion on this promissory note. Ms. Michaels,
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Just a couple quick questions. I know generally when you have a promissory note, there's interest and maybe some fees involved with this. Is this something the county would absorb because of the situation? And would we, I'm sure we'll put this out for bid. So that makes it a little bit different too.
Tammy, can you answer that?
Yes, so this is a parameters ordinance. So basically, the board is just establishing the parameters whereby the county staff would be able to issue the promissory note. I just want to make certain that you understand this is not something we're doing tomorrow. This just gives the ability to do it should we foresee that it's going to be necessary. So the maximum amount of interest that's stated in the ordinance is 4.5%. And there are bond counsel fees that would be $10,500 if we proceed with issuing the note. There is no fee at this time for just having received assistance for drafting it. And yes, the general fund would be issuing this note, and we would have to pay for the bond counsel fees and any interest. The way that if we have to proceed with this, that I would intend to structure this working with the treasurer's office would be that we would not draw the whole 3.3 million. We'll have a better understanding of what the cash flow needs are by the time we get to this point. And so we would structure it in increments of, maybe 500,000 so that we can only draw what we need and we wouldn't be paying interest on the whole amount.
Mr. McGuire. Mr. McGuire, your hand is up, but you're muted.
Sorry, thank you. Will the parameters of the bond come back to the board to be voted on once we understand exactly what they will be? Or is this the final vote? And that's it. Thank you.
So per the ordinance, the requirement would be that the board at its next meeting after the note was issued would be provided the details of the issuance, including the interest rate and whatever the structure is of the note. But no, there would not be a subsequent vote required.
Okay. What will the reserve be after we finished, if all the money's used for the county?
Well,
You're talking about
the first amount, Jim, the amount that was approved, the 2 million would come out of the general fund directly, and then The promissory note would be a loan, so it would be a loan to the county. So we'd only reduce the general fund by the first 2 million. Do you know what the amount would be, Tammy, that we'd have left in the general fund?
Well, there's a couple of issues here. I mean, we're talking about a cash flow issue for the general fund. The fund balance, as you know, which is unaudited, all the way back to 2019. So I do not hold me to this, but from the presentation that I gave last month, the anticipated general fund balance at the end of 2020 was a little over $8 million. However, the county continues to draw on and utilize that fund balance for its own operations until we start receiving our property tax revenues in May. So even though we have that, healthy fund balance, we have to take our own operations into consideration, which is why the issuance of the promissory note would be necessary if RPC would require more than $2 million.
Mr. Esri?
Unmute. Yes, thanks. Okay, so understanding this, I guess it's not going to be just a one and done deal for the treasurer's office. It's going to mean more work, potentially more than one time that we're going to have to be going to the bank. Should we issue a promissory note and requesting money? It's not like this is going to be one piece of work for the treasurer, for Tammy, for whoever. It's still this is going to amount to more than one piece of work, one time of any work getting done. So the idea that this saves potential work, maybe some, but it's all work that has to get done to do this. So the idea that it saves a lot of work, to me, I don't see it.
So the difference, I think, Aaron, what you're talking about is that to actually bid a promissory note out, you can set the conditions of the promissory note that we would not necessarily need to borrow all of it. What Tammy's saying is we'll set it up in increments so that we only have to borrow. It's like having a checking account where you only withdraw a certain amount when you need it, but we just want to set it up one time.
And that's why I'm saying it still is more work than just a one and done deal.
Yeah, but not to set it up. It would just be one time.
I understand that. So it would be slightly less work, but it's not going to be just a one and done deal.
Okay. Ms. Furtado?
I will agree that this is going to put more work on the treasurer's office than if we do, but it would just be just basically drawing down funds from a fund that we have set up, which is a lot less work than continually, having to solicit bids and go out onto the street. And one thing that I didn't even think about is if we had done this in multiple steps, I'm not sure, but we might have had to pay bond counsel more than once because we have to pay bond counsel to issue the promissory note. If we did that more than once, I don't know, but my guess is that they would charge us for each subsequent, some amount for each subsequent. So it would be more work to prepare those documents, to put it out on the street, and then to solicit bids. That would be more work than simply just writing basically a check that we would be, not a check, but drawing down on funds. But I do think it's important to note that all of this is more work on the treasurer and on our staff. That is true.
That part is certainly true. Okay. So I don't see any other hands raised. Are we ready to vote on this one? Would the clerk call the roll, please?
Humphrey,
Yes.
King,
Yes.
Lokshin,
Yes.
McGuire,
No.
Michaels,
Yes.
Pasalakwa, Paul,
Yes.
Rob,
Yes.
Rodriguez,
Yes.
Storr,
Yes.
Straub,
Yes.
Summers,
Yes.
Taylor,
Yes.
Thorsland,
Yes.
Wolkin,
Yes.
Ammons,
Yes.
Cowart, Esri,
No.
Furtado,
Yes.
Goss,
No.
Harper,
No.
Patterson.
Yes.
Okay, that motion carries. The last item on our agenda tonight is more discussion with the auditor. If anybody has further questions, or George, if you have anything further to say, this would be the time to do it.
Hi. No, I don't have anything to add.
Does anybody have further questions that were not on the previous topics that you want to talk to the auditor about? Okay, seeing none, I think that we are potentially ready to adjourn. I just did want to update the board real quickly that we do have a contract signed with OSF to do COVID testing for staff. As the board approved that last meeting, I guess. There's going to be time, we're going to actually, we thought we were going to be able to start on Monday, but they're having some delays. It'll be the following week. We'll actually be able to start. We'll be doing the testing over at the State Farm Center using the U of I saliva testing model. I was able to get a good price on the deal, and the staff are excited to be getting it. So letting you know that. Also, just to let you know that approximately somewhere around a little bit more than a third of the staff have been vaccinated at this point. So I thought you would be interested in just hearing that update. And with that, I will adjourn the meeting. Good night.
There's hands up.
How much?
More
how much-
hands?
Your hands up.
Just how much did they charge us compared to the cities?
The cities and I were quoted different prices for different reasons.
Okay,
And we ended up getting the test for $10 a test.
perfect. Thank you.
Yep.
And I just wanted to say real quick, many of you may have seen the governor did announce today that starting April 12th, the state of Illinois will be opening up vaccinations eligibility for every resident above the age of 16. So that's definitely important information. That's going to be a very transformative step in this. It's going to raise capacity a lot. So, spread the word.
Okay, thank you. Diane, is your hand still raised for something else?
No, ma'am, I'm sorry. I forgot
That's
to put it
okay.
down.
No, okay, I'm getting ready to close the meeting here. All right. This meeting is adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.